Hey, welcome back to Crimes and Closets. This is Beth in my closet in North Carolina.
And this is Christy in my closet in St. Louis.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Beth. How's it going?
Great. Here for another day of crime.
Yeah. I don't want to be, though.
Yes, you do.
Meh.
We're getting back on track. We do not have an episode next week. We say it. We have been saying it. We have been warning. We just wanted everybody to know that. Now is an incredibly great time for you to hop on over to our Patreon, because if you join our Patreon for the month of August and September, all 100% of the proceeds of your payments are going to go to a charity organization that Christy and I are participating in at the end of September called Peddle the Cause for cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a good listen. You're missing a week with no episode here on the Monday feed. So go get you some.
Yeah.
Go get you like 60 some.
Go donate to cancer research and get a lot of other episodes.
Yeah. Content. Find out what we really do in the closet.
And if you don't want to listen to the chit chats, don't. Just listen to the crime if that's all you're there for. Some people don't like those chit chats. They're a freebie anyway. We only guarantee one crime episode extra.
There you go. Yeah.
So, anyway,
it's a great time to do that. So go.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
We're peddle the cause.
We're peddling the cause.
Mm-hmm. Just came up with that.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Sorry. It took me a second to understand. I'm here now.
See what I did there?
I see.
All right. New in my world, my 13-year-old decided that it would be a great idea to jump on a one wheel, which is essentially a skateboard with a wheel just in the center, a big wheel in the center, and then your feet go on either side. So you have to balance kind of two different ways. And I'd never been on one before, and he kind of went into some gravel and tried to step off of it with one foot, which you cannot do because then the other foot is going to shoot out from under you, and he broke his wrist right on the growth plate again. I mean, it wasn't on the growth plate. He broke the same wrist in the fall playing football. That was a very, very minor break. This is not.
Right.
So as of recording, and I can update later, we are still wondering if surgery is going to be necessary. So yeah, that's new for me. It's a lot of fun.
What a way to spend your vacation.
Yeah. Have kids, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
You know, it's kind of strange. I feel like we may have said this before, but I feel like we've been kind of blessed that we haven't had more breaks with all the boys that we have.
It's true. Like, we've got 5.
Yeah. And I've had one break in this.
I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, okay. You've had
between all 3 of my kids. and a concussion and a bunch of stitches.
Well, I guess you could say I've had more than that because Isaiah did break his toe.
Oh yeah, that hurts.
But he can't do anything about it, and it's like you don't even take a break on anything. You know, like it's true. Just play on it.
Concussion too.
It's not break though. I mean, he broke his brain. I guess.
Counted it. Broke his brain. I think my kid's brain was already broken.
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel so bad for him for his little vacation, and he has to handle.
He'll survive
too. Yeah,
could have been a lot worse. He didn't have on a helmet.
Yeah. And
when they said he fell, I was upstairs, and immediately that's what I thought, was that he had fallen and hit his head on concrete, and it could have been way worse.
Yeah.
So when they said it was his wrist, I was like, okay, that's better. And then when I saw his wrist, I was like, oh,
not better.
No, it looked like a question mark.
Oh yeah. You sent me a picture of that.
Yeah. It was wild.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fingers crossed, no surgery. That it'll just heal.
Yes, please.
The way it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And prayers. Fingers crossed and prayers.
Yes, thank you. All right. What about you? What's happening on your end? Anything?
Not a whole lot. As of this dropping, I'll be back from Ireland, but you'll have to wait to hear what I did because I don't know yet.
Yep. And probably that's going to be a Patreon thing.
Oh, could be.
Yeah, I mean, we may. Oh, I know what we were going to talk about. Gypsy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Our friend Gypsy Rose Blanchard. We've been watching the documentary. It's all out as of the time that this drops. And I tell you what, it is something. And I'm worried about her. And now she's pregnant.
Yeah, I saw it. So it was funny because I sent you a text message about it because I saw it. They posted on social media and I pretty much saw it right away. It was like the first thing on there. And then like the next email I got was People Magazine. Gypsy Rose, pregnant. Like post, blah, blah, blah. I was like, Lord have mercy, help that family. And she's already posting her registry. So if anybody wants to buy her anything, you can go and check out her registry.
Gracious. All right. Okay. Well, I mean, but those pictures that she posted, it doesn't even look like her. I mean, her hair is different. She just looks really different. I mean, she looks great. And she looks happy.
I think she looks happy too.
But that's the nature of Instagram. So,
well, that's true. I look happy on Instagram too. Look at me.
Yeah. We are happy, guys.
I know. Just kidding.
Not every day.
Yeah.
But we don't look happy like Gypsy.
No.
Yeah.
But maybe we also didn't spend our entire life in prison until now. So.
Right. Which is just my concern. She has so much growing up to do. And now we're going to throw in her having to grow someone else.
Well, and in the beginning of this documentary, she talked about how she didn't want to get pregnant, but But how much of that was she really kind of didn't see herself being with Ryan for the long haul too.
Oh, true. Yeah.
So I feel like there was like glimpses of that. Like there was question in her eyes.
There was question in mine about halfway through.
Well, yeah. So
yeah,
we already knew they broke up by the time we watched this documentary. So
well, true. Yeah, but we didn't know why.
Right.
What the cause of it was. Anyway, I love her dad. I am team Rod.
Oh, 100%. He's so great. He's so great. Yeah, he needs to have his like own show. Like I don't know.
Really does.
I don't know
accents.
What, but something.
Yeah, I think he's great. And I think that, and listen, right now she is acting like a 17, 18-year-old kid and she needs her dad. And he seems like a great dad. And so let's just do that. Let's just be with your family. I mean, it's too late now, but you know what I'm saying? Like that was what I wish she would have done.
Didn't he say that? She's making decisions of like, a teenager or whatever, teenage decision, something like that in the show. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's still fascinating me. But the documentary was, how I said I wasn't sure if I was going to like it because I kind of was like over it and I was like over the Natalia Grace thing, blah, blah. This was not that. This has been like kind of interesting and fun to watch.
Yeah, I look forward to the next one coming out. Well, because I watched it like that, like once a week kind of thing. So,
yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, if we want to move on from that semi-train wreck and talk about something very sad on this Monday, we can.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Okay. Today's case is a listener suggestion from Christy C.
Oh, not me.
No, it's Christy, spelled exactly like yours, but with an H. And I'm pretty sure she's requested other cases.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep. So this is a very senseless case, very sad. It definitely took some legal turns that made it a bit of a roller coaster for me. So I can't imagine what it was like for the families that were going through this, but it got a little wild. So for today, we are going to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania.
Ooh, I've been there a bunch of times.
Me too. To the Amish country?
Ah.
Oh my gosh. Wouldn't it be weird if we were there at the same times?
I bet you we were.
I bet we were too. We got to go through our timelines. Okay. So this is a small town, but it's actually like one of the bigger small towns. And so I'm pretty sure this is one that we would have gone to because it's like a very touristy Amish, and it's near that Hershey Park. Do you remember doing that?
Yes,
okay.
I've been there, yeah.
Okay. So it's called East Lampeter Township.
Okay.
It's definitely in the heart of Amish country, and it has a population of around 18,000, which is pretty big for that area.
Yeah.
So this is the case of Laurie Show. Laurie Michelle Show was born January 27th, 1975, to parents John and Hazel. Laurie was a very pretty young lady with curly hair, lovely smile. She's described as being extremely kind and generous and was known around school for helping other classmates with their homework or helping them study for a test. So, obviously very smart as well. It was said that she gave very thoughtful gifts and was always thinking of others.
Oh, okay.
Do you have like that one friend, by the way, that like gives the best gifts? Like
Yes.
so thoughtful, and they're always like presented so beautifully. I feel like that was her.
Mm.
When Laurie was 9 or 10, her parents, John and Hazel, divorced, and Laurie primarily lived with her mom. But she did spend a lot of time with her dad, and they would hang out, go to dinner, spend the weekends, take trips. She was an only child, and she was very close with both of her parents.
Mm-hmm.
At the time of this case in 1991, way back in the 90s, Laurie was 16 years old and a sophomore at Conestoga High School. She and her mom had lived in the house that she grew up in, kind of out in the country, but they had just recently bought a townhouse in town near like shopping centers and things that they could walk to, like kind of in the heart of downtown. Laurie got a job at a woman's clothing store called the Deb Shop that was at a local mall right near their home, and used that money to help with like the bills. And do you feel like it was like Deb or Debs?
Yeah.
Remember, did it used to be called the Deb Shop like back in the early 90s? And then in our day when we bought prom dresses there, it was called just Debs.
Did you see my face when you said that? Like, I was like, that sounds so familiar.
Well, I don't think they're around anymore, but like I definitely frequented a Debs. So I don't know if it was the same or not. I didn't look that up. So Laurie had discussed going to cosmetology school after graduation, and she also had aspirations to be a model. And she was very pretty, so she could have. In the summer of 1991, Laurie had a brief relationship with a 20-year-old local man named Lawrence Youngkin. He was not Amish. It sounds Amish, but he was not.
Yeah. Okay.
Lawrence was super cute. He was a little cutie, and he had blonde hair, super tan skin. He did grow up working on an Amish farm, so he was like buff and tanned, and just a cutie.
Did he have a farmer's tan?
Yeah, I think so. He was kind of a ladies' man, though. Laurie and Lawrence only went out on a few dates over the course of about 2 weeks, and then Laurie ended things kind of abruptly. Lawrence quickly got back together with his long-term girlfriend, whose name was Lisa Michelle Lambert, who went by Michelle. So Michelle was a 19-year-old high school dropout, and she and Lawrence lived in a really rundown trailer outside of town. Like real rundown. Like they didn't even have an indoor kitchen.
Oh.
They had an outdoor kitchen.
I was just going to say, was it outdoors? Like, how does that even work?
He built it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yes. Well, he's handy at least, too.
Yes, not ideal. So, not long after Lawrence and Michelle got back together, Laurie started getting very harassing phone calls from Michelle. Apparently, Michelle was very jealous of the fact that Laurie had dated her boyfriend, Lawrence.
Oh, okay.
When they were broken up briefly for the time that they were dating, but Michelle was not happy that Laurie had come into the picture, and I just kept thinking, we were on a break. It's not applicable here, but I kept thinking it. It's like, girl, you weren't together. Chill out. Anyway, it's up for debate.
Okay.
In the Friends episode, but not this one. Okay. So she would call Laurie's house over and over again, and when they would pick up, Michelle would scream obscenities at Laurie or her mom. If her mom picked up, she'd scream and curse at her too. Yikes. She would call Laurie every name in the book and would threaten her and call her the B word and all the words. If they didn't answer the phone, she would just call over and over and over and over again, to the point that the majority of the time they just unplugged their phone. because they were like, she won't stop. Like, it was crazy. Also during this time, Laurie confessed to her mom that Lawrence had actually raped her while they were out on a date, and that's why she had ended their relationship so suddenly.
Whoa.
So they discussed reporting this to police, but they were afraid that it would enrage Michelle more and like make things worse. And so they were like, let's just not make it worse, which is awful. However, during one of the phone calls, Laurie's mom did tell Michelle that if she didn't stop what she was doing and leave them alone, that they would file charges against her boyfriend, Lawrence. Eventually, they changed their phone number completely and made sure it was unlisted so Michelle couldn't find it. Okay. But instead of that diffusing the situation and Michelle backing down, she escalated things. And she started showing up at Laurie's work, most of the time with Lawrence and a friend of hers whose name was Tabitha Buck. So she would like, her and Lawrence and this Tabitha would come, show up at her work, barge in, they would threaten Laurie, scream at her, like all the things that she was doing on the phone, except it was now happening in person.
This seems so insane to me. It's like, what? Just focus on yourself and your relationship. And like, why are we focusing on something that's like done and
it's
just
insane.
finished?
It is. You're absolutely right. It's a head scratcher. So Michelle, even told people around town that she wanted to humiliate Laurie. And then she escalated it to, I want to kill her. I want to slit her throat. Like terribly threatening things, this girl.
Yeah.
In November of 1991, Michelle actually attacked Laurie at the local mall. And she like ran up to her and was screaming at her and took her head and like banged it into a wall, injuring her. Laurie and her mom filed assault charges against Michelle, and police actually went looking for her, but they couldn't find her.
Where'd she go?
Well, they live in a trailer way off the grid.
Oh.
With no kitchen.
Okay.
They also learned that Michelle was a few months pregnant with Lawrence's baby. So she's attacking people in shopping malls.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's not a good look.
No.
Okay. On December 19th of 1991, Laurie's mom got a phone call at work. She worked at a local hospital from the guidance counselor at Laurie's high school.
Okay.
The woman said that there had been an issue with Laurie that had involved a male student and that she would like to speak to her about it in person. So she asked Laurie's mom if she could meet her the following morning at 7 a.m.
Okay.
So Laurie's mom agreed. She went home. She asked Laurie, like, what is this about? What happened? I got this phone call. What happened with a boy? Laurie's mom, or Laurie, was totally confused. She had no idea what this could be about, no clue what was going on with a boy. Had someone said something about her? If they had, it wasn't true. She just had no idea what the meeting was about. So Laurie actually had dinner with her dad that evening, and she even told him about it and was like, I'm at a loss about what this issue is. I don't know what this guidance counselor was talking about. I don't know what she wants. And her dad was just like, Mom is going. Mom will figure it out. You know, don't worry about it. So the following, super weird. The following day was Friday, December 20th. Laurie and her mom got up at their normal time and got ready for the day. Laurie's mom left the home around 6:45, 6:50 or so to meet with the guidance counselor like they had arranged. They were really close to the school. So she went to the meeting spot and waited, but the counselor never showed up. So it's like passing 7, passing 7:05, passing 7:10. So after like 15 minutes or so, Laurie's mom got annoyed because she was like, I have to get ready to work, get ready to go to work. I have things I have to do. So she left and went back to their townhouse, and she got there about 7:25 or so. So their townhouse was in a building with 2 condos in it. So like one on the first floor and one on the second floor, right?
Okay.
So Laurie and her mom were on the second floor, and they had to go up a flight of stairs to get to their unit. So as she was walking up towards the building, the downstairs neighbor came out and asked if everything was okay. And her mom was like, yeah, I guess. What do you mean? And she said that she heard noises, concerning noises coming from their condo. So Laurie's mom, she quickly goes up the stairs to see what was up. Laurie was supposed to leave around the same time to go to the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And so she thought maybe the neighbor had just heard her slamming the door, leaving, whatever. She walked into the house and it was very quiet. She kind of walked around, went into the kitchen, living room, whatever. And when she went into Laurie's bedroom, she saw her lying face up on the floor, surrounded in a giant pool of blood.
Oh my gosh.
But she was moving.
Mm-hmm.
So, and making some noises, some gasping noises and breathing noises and things moaning kind of thing. So she ran immediately to the door and yelled down to that neighbor who was still outside to call 911 because Laurie was hurt. And then she ran back to Laurie and she realized that she had a rope around her neck.
Oh gosh.
So she ran and got a kitchen knife and cut the rope off. Once she did, she realized that Laurie's throat had been slashed. And she started losing blood very quickly. So it's almost
that was helping it stop bleeding? It was
so.
Tourniquet almost?
Kind of, yeah, I think so. So Laurie was gasping for air and crying. And she, her mom was like, what happened? Who did this to you? And as Laurie began to fade, she said, Michelle did it.
Oh.
So her mom then told her, it's not your fault. The guidance counselor meeting was a trap. And she said that she and her daddy loved her so much. And Laurie just kept repeating back, love you, until she finally just passed away.
Oh my gosh.
Because she was literally bleeding out.
Right. Oh my gosh.
So police and paramedics arrived and tried to resuscitate Laurie, but sadly she was pronounced dead at the scene. 16 years old.
Wow.
So there was no forced entry to the home and nothing was taken. An autopsy was done that showed that Laurie had 28 defensive wounds, a stab wound that had punctured her lung, and one that had hit her spine. She had several head wounds and a 5-inch gash to her throat, which was ultimately her cause of death.
Wow.
Laurie's hair had also been crudely cut with what appeared to have been a knife, presumably the murder weapon. There was blood everywhere, on the walls, the floors, the doors. There were footprints in blood and what appeared to be 2 or 3 different ones. The murder weapon was never found.
Oh my gosh.
So neighbors in the complex reported that they had, that one neighbor said she had heard noises while mom was gone. And then there were other neighbors that reported that they had seen 2 girls that looked to be similar size, similar frame, similar age, walking away from the complex towards the woods around the time that Laurie would have been killed.
Oh.
So Laurie's mom immediately told police that they needed to go find Michelle Lambert and Lawrence Youngkin. She told them that Michelle had been stalking and harassing Laurie for months and that they also had outstanding assault charges on her. Right? Because remember, Michelle had assaulted Laurie and they filed charges. She also told police that Lawrence had raped Laurie and that they had threatened to file charges against him.
Now, but they said they saw 2 girls, not a girl and a guy.
Right. So she has no idea who this other girl would have been.
Right. I mean, I understand why they're saying to go find Lawrence, but clearly Lawrence was not there. Well, not clearly, but.
Well, what Michelle does, Lawrence does, and vice versa.
Right.
Okay, so police spoke to some young people in town and learned that Lawrence and Michelle hung out at a local bowling alley on the regular.
Don't we all?
Listen, we have a really fun bowling alley here.
Well, I know you
don't hate it. I hang out there sometimes.
No, I know you do, and that's cool. But I just remember, back then, in that time frame, that's what we did. We went to bowling. I went bowling almost every Friday night.
Galactic bowling?
Yes, exactly.
Amazing.
Exactly.
So that's where they were. They were both there. They were also with Michelle's best friend, Tabitha Buck.
So
Tabitha had visible scratches and markings on her arms, and even had a very large scratch on her cheek, like on her face. There's pictures of it, and it is noticeable. So they immediately took all three in for questioning. So we have 20-year-old Lawrence, 19-year-old Michelle, and then 17-year-old Tabitha, who was still in high school at the time, by the way. At first, all three of them told the exact same story. They said that they had gone to McDonald's that morning and that they had gotten into a fight with two Hispanic girls. And that's how Tabitha had gotten those scratches. Lawrence and Michelle then dropped Tabitha off at school and went home. And that's where they were.
And so they got into this fight at McDonald's. Okay.
Yeah. Tabitha did go to school that day. But she was like over an hour late.
Okay.
Eventually, after Lawrence was told that one of the girls was talking, which wasn't true, by the way, he started telling another version of the story. So Lawrence said that Michelle and Tabitha had wanted to humiliate Laurie by cutting her hair and berating her. He said that they lured her mom out of the condo and planned to go in and scare her, like as a prank. He then drove them to the complex where Laurie lived and dropped them off nearby, and then he went to McDonald's. He said that he went back to pick them up about 15 to 20 minutes later, and at first he couldn't find them, but then they popped out from the woods and ran towards the car, which, remember, there was an eyewitness that said they saw two girls walking into the woods. He said both of them had blood on them, and he was very confused and asked what happened, and that both of them had said that they thought they killed Laurie.
Oh my God. Thought?
Right. Lawrence said that they went back to the trailer and washed the clothes that the girls were wearing and washed their shoes, and then put them in a pink trash bag and disposed of them in a dumpster. He then said that they also threw some things into the river, including the knife that was used. He told police where they could find these things, and all of them were recovered, even the knife. Wow. So, like, all the pink trash bag, the stuff that was in it, everything was where he said it was. Michelle, when she learned that people were talking, she turned on Tabitha. So she said that they had only gone to scare Laurie and cut her hair, and that their plan was to lure her out of the apartment to the bus stop and do everything there so that there would be other kids there and she would be embarrassed and, like, humiliated. But she said that after they got into the apartment, Tabitha had flown into a rage and began fighting and stabbing Laurie, and that Michelle was terrified, and so she ran out. Now, she said that when she ran out, that Lawrence was outside. And she said, I think Tabitha is killing Laurie, and so he ran inside, and she doesn't know what happened after that.
This does not match two girls walking into the woods from the eyewitness, which is who I believe the most. Clearly, they saw two girls walking into the woods.
So Tabitha, she got an attorney, and she didn't talk. She didn't give a statement. She was like, I didn't do this. I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to talk to you. So we hear from her later, but we don't hear from her now. So Michelle and Tabitha were both charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Lawrence was charged with disposal of evidence and hindering arrest because police could not find any evidence that he was ever in the apartment. No one saw him there.
Right.
And they actually had eyewitnesses that did place him at McDonald's. So they were like, I think you really did just drop him off and leave. So he was very quickly given a plea deal. They gave him a deal to plead guilty to the charges of disposal of evidence, hindering arrest, and in return, he would have to testify against Michelle and Tabitha. Okay. So both of them, the girls, pleaded not guilty. All three of them were held without bail. So Laurie was buried in a Penn State, Jersey, and Penn State earrings that were her favorite because she loved that school and that's what they wanted to lay her to rest in.
Oh.
Michelle Lambert, remember, who was pregnant with Lawrence's baby, gave birth in prison in March of 1992, 3 months after the murder. So she went on trial she was first to go on trial in July of 1992. She opted out of a jury trial, so it was just heard by one judge. Lawrence did testify against her. It was determined that Michelle had actually called the high school, pretending to be Laurie's mom, and asked what work number do you have on file for me as an emergency contact? And that's how she was able to get Laurie's mom's work number so she could call her and arrange that fake guidance counselor meeting.
Oh my gosh.
The knife that was determined to have been the murder weapon did match other knives that were found in Michelle and Lawrence's trailer. The prosecution's motive was that Laurie had pending assault charges against Michelle and possible sexual assault charges against Lawrence, who was going to be the father of her child. Plus, she was obsessively jealous of Laurie and had been threatening to slit her throat, which is exactly what freaking happened, all around town, and harassing her and all the things. They believed she was the mastermind behind a murder plot and had wanted Laurie dead. Michelle admitted to harassing Laurie. She testified in her own defense. And she said that Tabitha had gone to the condo with a knife to scare Laurie that day, but that they had no intention of murdering her.
I don't believe that 1 second.
The defense brought up that Michelle had no defensive wounds, which was very interesting. That was only Tabitha that had them. And that she was not even in the apartment when Laurie was killed. Remember, because she got scared and ran out.
Did she have blood on her clothes, though?
She did. They did find blood on her clothing. Now, she'll later say it wasn't her clothing. It was Lawrence's clothing. But it was determined that it was way too small for Lawrence. So Michelle's defense was battered woman's syndrome. So they claimed that Lawrence was abusive and controlling towards Michelle. They said that Lawrence had encouraged her to take care of Laurie because of the ongoing legal issues and that she had refused. But that Lawrence was like threatening her life. She's abused. She's an abused woman. Lawrence then made Tabitha help them and then forced Michelle to cover up for him by taking the fall and saying he wasn't there, that it was just her and Tabitha. So there was some testimony presented at the trial that showed that Lawrence might have been physically abusing Michelle. So there was like bruises that people had seen. Lawrence's mom had a couple things to say about it. That like, I don't think he was a nice guy. Like, we know he raped Laurie. So like, obviously he sucks. But there was also testimony that Michelle may have also been abusive. So like, they were both being physically abusive to each other. And I'm sorry, battered women don't fight back. Like, they just don't.
Right. They take it and then they go back.
Terrified. Their life. Plus, Laurie's literal dying words were that Michelle did it.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, what she said. So the judge did not buy any of the defenses, anything, and he found Michelle guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Okay.
Her daughter was being raised by her parents.
I was going to ask what happened to the baby. But...
Yeah, baby's okay. Baby's with her parents, which she actually was kind of estranged from her parents because her parents had gotten sick of like behavior that she was having and ended up kicking her out. And like she dropped out of high school when she was like 15. It was a whole thing. So I think they might be okay people. Okay, so next up was 17-year-old Tabitha Buck's trial. So Michelle's bestie. She was tried as an adult before a jury in October of 1992. There really was not a whole lot of new evidence that was presented in her trial. It was very similar to Michelle's. There's not a lot of information on her trial. Like, I tried to look up the transcripts of it to see what the information was. She did not testify, so we don't hear from her, like, what her version of the story is at this time. But I did read in one article that her attorney during the trial held up the jacket that she had been wearing during the murder, and a piece of the knife that was used that had broken off fell out of the pocket.
Stop.
So they had the knife, they had the murder weapon, and there was like a piece that had been broken off, and it fell out of her jacket pocket during the trial.
Why didn't they look in the jacket pocket?
Girl.
Like, why? That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
It almost seems fake.
Right.
Like, did you do that on purpose? I don't know. It was damning. It was very damning. So she was convicted and sentenced to life without parole, just like Michelle.
Okay.
Okay, 20-year-old Lawrence Youngkin's plea deal. So he testified in both of the trials against Michelle and Tabitha. But it was determined that during his testimony in the trials that he had perjured himself, something regarding to evidence, and his plea deal was actually withdrawn.
Oh.
So because he had done his part by testifying, like he did actually help convict them, he was given leniency. So he pleaded no contest to his charges and was convicted of third-degree murder and sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison. After the trials, both Tabitha and Lawrence wrote apology letters to Laurie's mom. Like, basically admitting, like, we were there. We were involved. We didn't murder your daughter, but we knew stuff and we covered stuff up and we're so sorry. Like,
right. Well, and I mean, yeah, it's obvious that Michelle had it in for her. And so she would be the one. And she had been doing all these things and stalking her and like calling her and harassing her and all the things, threatening her.
Yes. And telling other people, like, want to help me kill her?
Yeah. It makes more sense that she was 100% the one that was doing it. And these two just kind of like got involved, unfortunately, in that thing. And
and that's
the
basically
fact that they
what they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So in 1997, Michelle, who is adamantly, I did not kill her. It was Tabitha, not me. No idea it was going to happen. She wrote a letter to a federal judge claiming that she was wrongfully convicted and that it was actually Tabitha and Lawrence that had conspired to kill Laurie. Okay, so this is really interesting. So while she was in prison, she wrote a letter to Lawrence with 25 questions. And he answered the questions and then mailed it back to her. So she included this like letter, which is known as the 25 question letter, by the way. And basically she's saying that some of the questions in the letter show that Lawrence was the one who killed Laurie.
Have you read these 25 questions?
I read all 25 of the questions. Now, I do think that he says some things that I'm like, indicate to me that he knew she was going to be murdered, which is not what he said.
Right.
I do not think by any stretch of the imagination does it say that Michelle is innocent.
Okay.
So like, yes, he's implicating himself saying like I can't even remember what the questions were at this because it was just outrageous, like the whole thing. But like she would ask a question, and don't quote me on this, that would be like, because you knew it would be better for us if Laurie was dead because of the legal issues. And he wrote back, yes. So it was like not good for him. But it didn't mean that she was innocent and that she didn't murder Laurie. It didn't show that.
But honestly, it also doesn't mean that he knew that that was what was going to happen.
Exactly.
It just meant that he's like, well, yeah, it's better. That would have been better had we not gotten caught, or had you not gotten caught.
Right.
Like,
yeah, he should have elaborated if that were the case, though. But anyway, it wasn't good for him. It wasn't like, it didn't make him look better. It made him look worse.
Yeah.
But it certainly didn't make Michelle look better at all. But this judge found this letter and all of this stuff very interesting. And he actually granted an appeal for Michelle. So this is a federal judge. Okay. So she went to trial in front of this federal judge, and she claimed that she had been raped by some corrections officers.
Oh, Lord.
while she was in prison, and that she had told on them, and that the whole entire trial and everything had been corrupt in order to frame her because she had these allegations against these guards.
Okay.
Also during this appeal, which was really interesting, there was a lot of talk about whether Laurie could have actually spoken out loud as she was dying because her throat was cut, remember?
Right.
And so there was a ton of testimony from expert witness testimony about whether it was possible or not. And, one side has one theory and one side has the other.
Wouldn't it depend on how deep it is and where, what was cut in there?
Correct. And how quickly mom could have gotten there. You know what I mean? Because if she walked in 10 minutes after her throat was slit, it's probably not going to be possible she was alive versus 2 minutes. Okay, so the federal judge who heard this case had a history of having it out for law enforcement in general, and he actually ended up overturning Michelle's conviction and sent her home.
What?
Let her out of prison.
That is not what I thought was going to happen.
I know. Me either. Even when I was researching it, every time that came up, I was like, bombshell, bombshell, not ready for that. So she goes home. This is 5 years after. So, of course, everyone's devastated. Laurie's mom, family, everyone was devastated.
And the other two are in jail still.
The other two are in prison still.
Oh, my gosh.
And there is, stuff that Tabitha comes out and says, because she's like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. I'm here for life without parole, and she's getting out, and I didn't do it. Okay, but then 10 months later, Michelle was sent back to prison.
Oh.
Because it was determined, it's kind of like a legal loophole. I'm telling you, this is a roller coaster, legally what happened in this. So in Pennsylvania, the way that the law worked at that time, I don't know if it still does, you have to exhaust all of your appeals on a state level before you go to federal court.
Okay.
Well, Michelle didn't do that. Michelle wrote a federal judge and went to an appeal in front of a federal court. So she skipped her, it was a loophole, essentially. So they were saying it's just suspect that judge took interest in her case anyway, but that's neither here nor there. You can watch court transcripts or court videos of it, and it's really interesting. The things the way he handled his courtroom is quite interesting. So she was granted a new trial on a state level, and that was in 1999. So she's back in prison. You have to exhaust all your appeals statewide. Here's your appeal for your state. So at that trial, Tabitha finally spoke out. So she agreed to testify against Michelle and tell her version of the murder and of what happened. So she claimed that the plan was for her to knock on Laurie's door because Laurie didn't know her. Really. She knew Michelle and was afraid of Michelle. And so she said, I'll knock on the door. And then Michelle was supposed to force her way inside, and then they would drag her out to the bus stop and humiliate her in front of her peers. There was a whole thing about cutting the hair. They kept saying that over and over and over again. They cut her hair.
Well, that's all that, honestly, when you told me about the whole hair cutting thing, that's all I thought was that was the humiliating her part of this story.
Well, and just saying this girl's a whore and, all these other things they were planning on doing in front of other classmates. But once they were inside the condo, Michelle ended up attacking Laurie with the knife that she brought and began stabbing her. Now, Tabitha did admit that Laurie at one point while she was attacking Tabitha was like, you need to hold her down. She's messing around. I want to cut her hair, hold her down. And Tabitha did admit to holding Laurie's legs, sitting on top of her essentially, while Michelle said she was going to cut her hair. But instead, Michelle cut her throat.
So how did Tabitha get this scratch on her face, though?
While she was attempting to hold her down.
Okay, so she was able to somehow scratch her in the face, though? If you're sitting on someone's legs, I feel like you're far enough away.
Well, I think it was before that. I think that Michelle was grab her and put her on the ground so I can cut her hair and hold her.
Okay.
And it just didn't go that way. This is what
right.
Again, so that's the third version of the story that we've gotten at this point. She said that they then left and they washed their clothes. And then Lawrence and Michelle took her to school. Yeah. She also said that she believes that Michelle knew she was going to murder Laurie that day because she had told Tabitha to wear her hair up and not to wear any nail polish.
To leave evidence and stuff behind.
Right. And so she's like, if she wasn't going to murder her, why would she have told me that?
Right. Yeah.
Tabitha believes that she was only brought along so that Michelle could end up framing her for the murder. Which is exactly what Michelle tried to do. So after this trial, it was determined that if Michelle was telling the truth, then something like 46 other people had to be lying. So they were like, if this one girl is telling the truth about what happened, then all these 46 other people who have different versions of what happened and we have evidence corroborating their story, they all have to be lying for this one person to be telling the truth. So like, Michelle's lying. She's lying. Oh, by the way, on the last day of this trial, Michelle wore a white ball gown to court.
Oh my gosh. Clearly this lady
she looked ridiculous. Ridiculous. So Michelle's guilty conviction was upheld.
Okay, good.
An appeal was denied in 2003 and then again in 2005. And it was determined that at that point she had exhausted all of her appeals. So she can't file anymore. So she will be living out her natural life in Pennsylvania prison, claiming her innocence still.
It's bull.
She now goes by her first name, Lisa. So she doesn't go by Michelle anymore. And she is currently 52 years old. Okay. Lawrence Yunkin was released on parole in 2004 after serving 12 years in prison. He was 32 at the time of his release. I tried to look him up, but I can't find him.
I was going to say he's like young enough to like start a life over and try and do better.
Yeah. Well, he's older now. He's 52 now.
Well, no, but I'm saying at the time of release, he had a chance to start over. He's young.
Right.
He could do better.
Absolutely. In 2017, a Pennsylvania law was put in place banning life sentences without parole for minors.
Okay.
So since Tabitha had only been 17 at the time of her murder, that meant her too. So she was resentenced to 28 years to life in prison. And in 2019, after serving 28 years in prison, Tabitha was granted parole at the age of 45. So she is also out of prison. She was banned from living in or visiting Lancaster County and barred from ever contacting Laurie's family.
Okay, fair.
So honestly, I don't know if we'll ever know what really happened that day and at what level each of these three people were involved. Like you said, Michelle had a history of being a real crap person, specifically to Laurie. And she and Lawrence both had motives. I think he's a bad guy as well, but we don't have any evidence that he was in the apartment.
Right.
Mostly because, and this is the other thing too, so the clothing that was recovered, remember they washed their clothes and put it in a pink trash bag and put it in a dumpster? They were all female clothing and there was only 2 sets. So there's 3 people, but only 2 pair of pants, 2 shirts, 2 pairs of socks.
Well, because he was a driver, so he had nothing on him.
Right, exactly. So that's proof to me that he didn't murder her. And maybe his sentence was correct and he served his time. And, So I did I listened to a book about this case called Overkill. It's very good. Laurie's mom participates in the book, in the writing of the book, and in some of the documentaries that I will link, which she's a great lady. It just breaks my heart that this happened. This was her only child.
Right.
And she was the one who found her, and like her account of her daughter's dying words is very heartbreaking to watch. She did push after Laurie's death for stronger anti-stalking laws in Pennsylvania, and new legislation was passed as a result of Laurie's murder, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's the case
Wow.
of Laurie Show.
Wow.
I know.
Is Christy from that area? How did she know this?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I mean, she might have told us, and I don't even know.
Right. No, it's not a big deal. It does interest me, although I tend to forget to ask people too when they suggest, like, how do you know this case? So,
yeah,
anyway.
I don't know. Gosh, that's going to aggravate me now. But anyway, really interesting. And it's just, listen, okay. Michelle, I watched an old Dateline, like grainy Dateline. And Michelle, who was going by Lisa at that time, is very involved. Like, they interview her, and she is just so like, I was a victim. And she literally says, I tried to help Laurie. I tried to pull her out of the apartment and get her away from Tabitha because Tabitha was so crazed and was just murdering her. And I was like, Laurie, come on, let's get away. Let me help you. Like,
I don't believe one single word of that.
The audacity of saying that is just...
Yeah. My mind always goes to, I know you said that we won't know the truth. I tend to believe, like, Tabitha more than Michelle, clearly. Tabitha doesn't have a history of doing all of this or this kind of behavior or violent behavior. I mean, that we know of.
No, you're right. She was like a straight A honor student.
Right. So she just happened to be friends with this psychopath that, like, conned her into, like, okay, let's go humiliate her because whatever. Even her reasons for humiliating her are stupid, so she shouldn't even help with that. But fine, like, you're a high school student, you get sucked into stuff like
you're 17, your brain's not developed, you make bad choices.
Yeah. So I can see all that. And then her being caught off guard, she should have just left once it got to a point that, oh, we know that she's going to kill her now. She should have left. Although she said that she was holding her down to cut hair and she cut her throat. So she was probably also caught off guard in that moment. I don't know.
But she was also stabbed multiple times. Like, I don't know. And so, like, when did the stabbing happen? Like, she stabbed her so hard that it punctured a lung and hit her spine.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
Right.
They did cut her hair, by the way.
Well, I know you had said that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't remember if I said that.
No, you did, because when you said it initially, I was like, well, there's the humiliating part. Like, anyway,
it's just very senseless and gross, and it's sad. I mean, Laurie seemed, like, it's always the good ones.
Yeah, no kidding. Poor thing. Dated the wrong guy. That's basically all she did.
5 minutes.
Right.
Like, exactly. I think it said they went on like 4 dates, and then the last date was horrendous for her because she was then sexually assaulted by him, like, and then punished.
Right.
It was just terrible.
Yeah. Gosh. Freaking, see? This world is freaking scary.
Scary. Yep.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, thanks for diving into that. I know it took a little bit because you were like, all of a sudden there's a book. Oh gosh.
Yeah. So no, Christy, I don't think is from that area, our listener that suggested it, but she did read the book.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. It's good. It's a good book.
But you audiobook, so not a giveaway book.
No, I can't give it away because I audioed it because I got it last minute. Like, I realized about it last minute, and if there is an audio, it's free. So it's like one of those free
honestly, like, audiobooks are so much easier for us to do because it's like I have a case that I started a book for that I read about 2 chapters in, and I'm just like, I don't have time to sit and read. So, like, listening to things as I do things and, like, jotting a note down because I keep a pad near me is so much easier. That's what I do
too. Yeah. Okay. Also, I wanted to tell you, there is a made-for-TV movie about this case. It is called The Stalking of Laurie Show. It's called Rivals, The Stalking of Laurie Show. It's on YouTube. I did not watch it because it's based on the true story. And that always freaks me out to do that because I'm like, oh, that's a really good fact. but is it
But it's
real
not.
or is it fabricated? Like, I don't know the difference. So I only want to report on things that are actually fact-based, that I've like in the book and on documentaries and found in court transcripts and stuff like that. So I didn't watch it, but I do kind of want to watch it.
Yeah. I've done that before where I've watched it after I've finished like my research and I know what is fact. And so that I can kind of like corroborate like the things. And then if I hear something, because sometimes you hear something and you're like, oh, wait, did that happen? Well, it didn't, because it's not anywhere else except for this made for TV movie.
And you can't keep all that information straight in your brain. So I did not want to report on something that was not fact-based and was based on this movie. Also, I didn't see anything about how Laurie's family felt about this made for TV movie. And so like if it was a situation where they were like, no, we don't endorse this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to report on it because we don't do that. So, but I will link it in the show notes. I'll link the YouTube for it if anybody is interested.
Cool. Well, thanks for letting us know and telling Laurie's story, because
you're welcome. It's a long case today. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, everyone. Woohoo.
Oh, we're not going to have a case next week, by the way. We're taking the week off next Monday. So just be aware.
Is that where we're at right now?
Yep. We're here in July and we are doing our regular July break. And so we take off a couple weeks in July and next week is the last one, probably for the year. Who knows? But just be aware.
Okay, cool. Thanks for pointing that out. You're good at remembering that stuff.
Go listen to the audiobook since you can't listen to us next Monday.
Yeah. Or if you're not a Patreon member, go join Patreon and binge all of that. Because we have a lot over there, at least one crime a month and one us sitting and chit-chatting each month. So if you're not a member already, go do it. I'm also cool with the people who are like, I join for a couple of months, listen, and then I take a break from the fee and then join back up and binge what you've done since. So also okay to do that. We're totally fine with that.
$3 a month.
Yep. So anyway, thanks for looking into this. Thanks for telling the story. Thank you, Christy, for sending it our way. We appreciate it, especially anybody named Christy. It's awesome. Plug there.
I agree.
You do not suck.
No.
As people. So
Christy's don't suck.
No, they do not. Never. Anyways, always remember the world is scary because it stinking is. People suck. All of these people do, and hide in your closets.